We believe health is the foundation that unlocks freedom. The freedom to live fully, to be an asset and not a burden, and to chase what truly matters. Through daily practices and proven frameworks, we are here to help you build deep health, find lasting peace, and live with your heart on fire. Welcome to the chase. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you, Ben?
Doing great, thanks. How you doing,
It's
Patrick?
a beautiful day, and you're wearing a sweatshirt. It's making me feel a little bit warmer than it should.
Well, a beautiful day, but I haven't been outside yet today, so I don't know that's a beautiful day.
You don't know what it is?
Yes.
Well, trust me, it's a beautiful day.
I'm sure that outside the zoo, people are enjoying their lives, but inside yeah.
I saw recently, this is a total non sequitur what we're going to talk about today, but I saw recently you're going to do Sunday Run Day with the gym. You guys going to
Yeah, we already did it. We started it.
Amazing. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
That's such
Loved
a cool
it.
idea.
Yeah, so we had 23 people show up for the first one.
Love it.
And we're doing it at 7 a.m. on Sunday mornings. I think it's a really good showing considering it was Mother's Day for the first one we did too. But yeah, Sunday Run Day. It's a thing.
It's such a good idea to have everybody come and do it together. Because it's one of those
Yeah.
things, we can say until we're blue in the face, like you've got to get out there, you've got to run, you get your 2, 3, 4 miles in. But and I'll raise my hand, even though I went for a run this morning, like I don't love running and I don't love particularly running by myself. And so just the idea of like, oh, I'll go and all my friends from the gym will be there. I'll get it done 7 o'clock on a Sunday, get it done, check that off. It's a really good way to get people to eat their vegetables.
Yeah. I think the way we format is pretty solid too, which is we all just meet at our town center. There's a big gazebo and we start a clock and we say, everyone just turn around at the 15-minute mark. So we run down a rail trail. So it's a straight shot out.
Yep.
And some people are, faster than others, but we kind of like accordion, right? Everyone stretches out.
Yep.
But then everyone kind of comes back together. So everyone's kind of finishing within, same couple minutes of each other as well.
Yep.
And next week we'll do it where you can go 15 to 20 minutes and out. So it's a 30 to 40-minute run. And, I think it's a really cool way to do it. It certainly went by faster than most of my Sunday run days.
Yeah. And really nice to take advantage of the outside and the weather and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So cool. Good on you guys. I look forward to hearing how that goes. All right. This time around this week and into the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a series of conversations that I'm excited about. We're going to talk about distractions. We're going to talk about distractions specifically around the 3 real tenets that we talk about here on the show all the time, which is health, happiness, and what we like to call hearts on fire, which is another way to say purpose or intention or passion. And so over the next couple episodes, we're going to talk about what we think are at least some of the really key big barriers or distractions that keep us from each one of those major pursuits inside of our life. And so I'm just going to give a little tease of the next couple episodes of what we're going to talk about. So this time around, we're going to talk about the distractions as it relates to our health. And we're going to talk about the lure of quick fixes, social and environmental influences, and obsession with outcomes or perfectionism. In the next episode, where we talk about distractions keeping us from happiness, we're going to talk about the 4 idols and what those are, internal psychological traps like judgment and expectations, and surrendering to other people's priorities. And then for our final episode in this series, for our distractions that keep us from living with our hearts on fire, we're going to talk about fear of uncertainty, self-doubt and limiting narratives, and busyness, numbing, and comfort seeking. So that's what we're going to talk about. Before we dive into our conversation around health today, one, I'd love to just chat with you briefly around this term of distractions, because it really is something that I got from you. I think I must have been watching a video of you talking to one of your athletes at the gym, and you were talking about just like I think this was it. It was like, the minute you look in the morning or the night before, like what's tomorrow's workout, and the stories start to go, and it starts to be one of those things where you're like, well, maybe I won't go tomorrow because I'm not good at that thing, or I hate that thing, or I've never done that thing. And labeling those as distractions, I thought was really interesting. I never used that word for that kind of thing. So just to enter into this conversation, this series of conversations around distractions, how do you think about distractions? How did you come to label these things as distractions?
I think it's a conglomeration of a bunch of different influences that kind of came out to do this. One of them is this idea of single-pointed intention, which is if you just have a singular thing, like one, this comes from the mindfulness community, which is they focus on your breath, or you can focus on the flickering of a candle. Really, it's anything. The idea is that you have this one singular thing that you're focused on. In that case, you give it your all. Everything goes into that. So there is nothing pulling you away. But that's would be amazing if that was actually life, right?
Right.
I want to make $1 million in my career, so I'm going to go in single. But that's not the case. You have a family, you have a spouse, you have your own needs, desire. There's so many different things pulling you away from things. The other part of it that goes into this is this, like, different people call it different things. Freud called it the ego, the superego, and the id. Other people call it self one, self two, like Tim Galloway from Inner Game of Tennis.
Yep.
Even like Ray Dalio has an essence of this, of like there's the two competing yous. Most religions have like this, this angel and devil riding on either shoulders that are competing. Those are distractions. That's like what we all have is we have these wants and these desires. I want to look awesome at the beach this summer. I want to have a great career. I want to have a great marriage. I want to eat salad. I want to be patient and calm. I want to fill in the blank. Well, if we want those things, how come we just don't do those things? How come those things just aren't there? And the reason is we get distracted. We get distracted by a lot of different things. As you're talking about, one of the things that we get distracted by is our own insecurities, which is that story we start to tell ourselves. Or we get distracted by our ego, or we get distracted by the comfort of our bed and the snooze alarm. We get distracted by how tasty that damn cookie seems. We get distracted by what everyone else around us is doing. So the obvious distractions that we can all kind of point to are ones that come in through the five senses, right? Which is, I'm doing something, I'm set upon path A, and I'm going to continue. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion unless acted upon by another force. That other force is a distraction. That distraction, usually when we recognize it like that, comes in the form through our five senses. You hear something. A fire alarm is a big distraction because you hear it. A baseball flying out of the corner of your eye towards your head, you're going to flinch and startle. It's like you're going to be distracted by that. Thank God, right? If all of a sudden you're working out and it gets crazy, crazy hot, you feel another sensation. You feel something. You are going for, this is a weird example, but you're going for a run. All of a sudden, like you go, there's roadkill and a skunk is killed. You'll slow down because it's so disgusting. That smell distracts you from what you're actually doing. So usually it comes in through something that you hear, that you see, that you smell, that you touch. It could be something that you taste, you get distracted by. But obviously us as human beings, most of the time, something that we see or hear.
Yep. That's
our strongest senses. But what most people don't have their radar and antenna up is the distractions that don't come in through those senses. They're deeper triggers inside of us that if we don't label them and understand them as a distraction, we just think it's this normal path. Yeah. But it's not. You want to be lean this summer. You've said you won, the one that sets up with the prefrontal cortex and the cognitive discipline, and the one that has like all of the precognition and the ability to really think thoughts well, goes, I want to look awesome at the beach this summer. Then there's the other you that gets distracted when you're with your friends and everyone's drinking beer, having chicken wings, and then the plate of cookies gets passed around. You're like, all right, like, you got to recognize that that's the distraction. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that's keeping us from that, amongst a whole host of other things, which I'm sure we're going to get into.
Yeah, right. Got it. Okay, cool. Love it. So we're going to talk about 3 distractions keeping us from health. And again, I'll just give you the preview: the lure of quick fixes, social and environmental influences, and obsession with outcomes. Here's the first one: the lure of quick fixes and health consumerism. Modern wellness culture bombards us with products, supplements, and hacks, selling the idea that health can't that health can be bought or shortcut. This doing health, purchasing gear, chasing trends, obsessing over the latest biohack, distracts from being healthy, which is grounded in simple, sustainable fundamentals: real food, consistent training, quality rest, an open mind, and meaningful relationships. The health industry thrives on confusion between health products and health principles, making expensive distractions out of what should be straightforward lifestyle choices.
That's so well said, Patrick. I think we move on to the next one. But it really is. I mean, that's like that. I mean, we should just like replay that again, because I loved what you said there about, what was it? Something besides being healthy. It's like
doing health versus being health.
Doing versus being.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. And I love the, like, people that, it's such a distraction, right? Like, people that listen here realize how simple yet challenging health is. And the reason is because we're so distracted, right? And one of them is the noise that's out there. We're being so pulled in so many different directions, whether it's the hacking our way there, or the consumerism, or the doing instead of being. So this is a big, like, I'm going to take an apple cider vinegar shot every single day, but I'm still going to eat highly processed foods because I can't say no. They're not changing the thing. They're still like crazy distracted. I'm not saying don't do that, but don't think that that's the answer. Like, can it be a part of? Sure. Is it? I think of it in terms of essential. Like, can you have great health from doing apple cider vinegar shots? And the answer, like, is that essential? Do you need to do that to have great health? The answer is obviously no, you do not. Can you have great health without eating clean food? And the answer is no, it's essential. You need to eat clean food to be able to do that. So we think of it on times that spectrum. It's like the distractions start to fall away. Like, oh, wait a minute. A great one is like the blue light glasses. Like, I'm going to wear blue light glasses, but I'm going to stay up 2 hours later staring at this screen, but I have blue light glasses on, so I'm doing health, but yet I'm going to eat into my 8-hour sleep and only get 5:45 or 6 hours, but blue light glasses. And I think that it's a cool thing just to kind of pop the lid off a little bit and kind of go, with all of the information that's available now and how everyone is now an expert in this thing, the recommendations and the noise is, so you can find whatever hunch you have, you can find something that kind of confirms it. I shouldn't eat strawberries. Go look up, why should I not eat strawberries? It's, oh my God. And talk about like and you're going to find products that support why you shouldn't eat strawberries. And it's this. So, yeah. I think it's one of those things, what I just said, expensive distractions. And a lot of these things, I talk to EC about this a lot, because is she persistent in knocking down the distractions as best she can. And what she says is a lot of these things, like, you can shrug your shoulders and say, yeah, like, is the apple cider vinegar going to hurt? No, but the danger is that you think, okay, well, I took my apple cider vinegar shot this morning and therefore I'm healthy. Therefore, I don't have to really consider what I'm eating or how much I slept last night or what goes on between my ears or the relationship that I have. Like, all we let ourselves off the hook if we say, cool, like, I did my blue light glasses, I jumped in the cold, in the cold bath or whatever, and I took my apple cider vinegar shot. Like, I'm healthy, right? I don't have to worry about the other stuff, because the other stuff is the harder stuff. It's the stuff that you need to be more consistent with. It's a lot slower. So I think that's the danger of these kinds of distractions, is that they let us off the hook and let us tell ourselves the story that we're doing the things we need to do to be healthy, and then not paying attention to the things that actually do create the health that we say we want. So the way you just laid that out is so, you can imagine somebody doing their apple cider vinegar shot in the morning, right? And then getting on their vibration platform to do their toning, right? To get fit, having their superfoods with their chia seeds and their acai and their microgreens, getting on the computer with their blue light glasses, for lunch, they're having their cleansing juices and taking sleep gummies before they go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
They are doing health, like hugely. Their day is actually like consumed by it.
Yeah.
That's not health. Like that's the distraction, right?
Yep.
Now, are those things wrong? No, I don't think any of those things are necessarily wrong. But to your point, we don't want to conflate doing with being, right? And just to call it out, we don't want to give ourselves credit for the work we haven't done.
Yep.
Like those are the easy things. Like, yeah, apple cider vinegar shots suck, but you know what is a whole lot harder? Like cooking a home-cooked meal.
Yeah. That's
the hard thing. You know what is like not kind of is people would rather do a lot of other things rather than get on the toning vibrator, and like with their 1 pound plates, 1 pound weights, is actually doing real strength training and real conditioning work that will actually move the needle for you. So yeah, a little bit of this is actually like calling it out. Like it's a reason that a lot of people get frustrated with work because they confuse being busy with productive.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They show up to work early.
Yep.
They put in longer hours than everybody else, but you don't get credit for being busy.
Yeah.
You don't get credit in the health world for doing health. You get it from being.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. There is a difference between effort and outcome. And we always want to think that the effort is the thing that matters when it's rarely the case. It's usually the outcome that we're aiming for, but the effort we can modulate a little bit more, whereas the outcome sometimes can be outside of our control. But what's interesting about that is what I think can happen is, going back to that individual who did all the health things, right, that you just laid out from morning to night, and they do that for 2 weeks or 2 months, and they say it's not working.
Right.
And then they get to the place, well, it doesn't matter. I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to fill in the blank, lose the weight, get stronger, be able to keep up with the kids, whatever it might be, because they're spending all of their energy and a good amount of their money on things that ultimately aren't going to move the needle. But if they don't know that, they think that they tried, they put in the effort, and the outcome didn't come. So they're not the kind of person who can get healthy. And so it's another reason why these distractions are so dangerous, is because we get confused when we pay attention to those things and they don't yield what we think they're going to yield. Then we just say, then we just throw our hands up and say, it's not going to happen for me. I'm not the kind of person who can get healthy. And so who cares?
Yeah, man. I put myself in that category for years ago, whereas I used to go to the gym, at 4 or 5 days a week, and I never really saw much change, and I tried to eat healthy, but I didn't see much change. That's a really frustrating experience.
Totally.
It's, and I go like, well, you kind of throw your hands up a little bit. Now, as you know, like you move things a little bit and you see like a result, like you see changes almost instantaneously because you're doing things that matter. You're doing things that actually move the needle.
Yeah.
And it's again, send me back to the beginning of this, but it's so easy to get distracted by the consumerism because that's what they're. It's companies don't make a whole lot of money by selling you broccoli and chicken. They just don't. Everybody knows what works.
Yep.
But it's not that. You know what it is? It's the next BCAA. It's the next magnesium and zinc combination. It's the next this thing. It's because it's easier. It's just easier than going to bed and getting 8.5 hours of sleep. Like it sounds crazy because you're just closing your eyes, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to change your lifestyle to do that. But if you put those 5 factors in place and you turn a dial 2 or 3 degrees, your body and your mind and your emotions respond 2 or 3 degrees. Mm-hmm. That's where we want to be. Mm-hmm. Not, I'm going to add in the next hack, and add in the next one, try to live that lifestyle that I just described for 3 weeks and not really feel anything. My best friend was asking me, we were talking about different supplements. And we were talking about, he's like, do you see the difference? He was talking about NAD. And he's like, my feed is full of them. You know, my doctor I'm going to is saying I should get on it. Have you ever done it? And I was like, yeah, I've done it. I did NAD for a number of years. And he's like, how'd you feel? And I was like, honestly, I've never felt any different from any supplements I've ever taken, ever. Like, I've never felt the difference, including NAD, like all of it. That's so crazy. Like, whereas if I go and I turn the dial a little bit with the CompTrain programming and do just like the little extra, I do one little extra accessory piece, or I add in the Sunday run day, like in 3 weeks, you're a completely different physiological being.
Yep.
Like if you get an extra 90 minutes of sleep for 3 weeks, like you're a crazy different human being. If you eliminate 90% of the processed foods that you've been eating, in 10 days, you're going to be a totally different, there's nothing that comes close. Minus, I don't know, but I'm guessing like illegal stuff would do that. But it's like the simplicity is the power is always in the simplicity, but it's hard. You can't just do the little fringy type stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to cold plunge, right? Yeah. Cold plunge can help for a lot of reasons, but it's not going to incinerate fat off your body the way that everyone's saying it does.
Makes me think of the old 80-20 rule, right? Where 20% of your inputs create 80% of the outputs that you're looking for. And I think it is if there's a takeaway from this bit of the conversation, from this distraction, it's to really do the work of figuring out like, what are the 20% that's going to create 80% of the health results that I'm looking for. And it's to your point, they're hard to sell, but they're the things we talk about all the time, which is the 5 factors.
Yep.
Right? Get enough sleep, train, eat right, get your head right, and have really strong, meaningful, powerful relationships. I'm going to wager it's going to get you more than 80% of what you're looking for. I'd say that's about 99.7.
Yeah. Just around that 99.7.
Yeah. Let's pause to say thanks to a few sponsors, and we'll be right back to the conversation. We're brought to you by Monarch Money, your personal CFO that transforms chaotic finances into a clear, systematic path to wealth building. Head to monarchmoney.com. Use the code excellence to get 50% off your first year. You know how having a system for your nutrition and training takes the guesswork out of reaching your health goals? Well, the same principles apply to your finances. Hoping you'll save more and spend less just doesn't work. What works is having a reliable system, and that's exactly what Monarch Money provides. It brings all your accounts, credit cards, and investments into one organized dashboard, making it easy to track patterns and progress. Just like tracking your workouts helps you get stronger, Monarch helps you build financial strength by showing you exactly where your money goes. Over 1 million households, including mine, trust Monarch as their financial command center, and the Wall Street Journal just named it the best budgeting app of 2024. Transform your financial future today at monarchmoney.com. Use the code excellence for 50% off your first year. You and your finances will not regret it. We're brought to you by Masterclass, the only streaming platform where you can learn directly from over 200 of the world's best instructors. Head to masterclass.com/excellence to get at least 15% off your annual membership. I've been diving into R.L. Stein's class on writing for young audiences as I continue working on the craft of writing for kids, and learning from the master of Goosebumps himself has been really fun. For you, since you're here listening to Chasing Excellence, perhaps you are looking to optimize your performance. Matthew Walker's class on the science of sleep could revolutionize your recovery and mental clarity. You need some ancient wisdom for modern challenges? Well, Mr. Ryan Holiday's class can help you apply timeless Stoic principles to today's complex world. And James Clear's class on habit formation. You know him, you love him. It's a game changer for anyone looking to make lasting positive changes. The best part, for just $10 a month billed annually, you'll get unlimited access to every single instructor and class on the platform. You can watch on your phone, computer, smart TV, even listen in audio mode while you're on the go. If you're ready to learn from the best, visit masterclass.com/excellence to get at least 15% off your annual membership today. So that's our first distraction, the lure of quick fixes and health consumerism. Let's jump into our second one, which is social and environmental influences. The people we surround ourselves with, our social networks, and our daily environments shape our health behaviors far more than willpower alone. Negative social circles, toxic relationships, or unsupportive environments can make healthy choices feel isolating or impossible. Conversely, positive, health-oriented communities like supportive gyms or active peer groups reinforce good habits. Social isolation, peer pressure, and the default settings of our physical and digital environments are powerful distractions that can pull us away from our health priorities. Where shall we begin with this one?
Yeah. So intentionally build your crew, right? That's what really matters. Now, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends. And if it's hard to do that, then seek out the positive places, right? Like supportive gyms, like you mentioned. Your environment is also shaped by what you watch, what you listen to, what you read. It's your physical, and it's basically all of your body is trying really hard to figure out its environment. So there's actually a physiological component to this. There's a psychological and there's an emotional. And the physiological is like if you're in a stressful environment, meaning toxic relationships, abuse, whatever terrible, your body is going to be crushed. You will be, if you're not, you're on the path to disease is honestly what happens, because we've talked about this, but you're forcing your body into a chronic state of fight or flight. You are switching into the sympathetic nervous system, and in that system, your basically stress hormones are on go mode, and all of your repair hormones are downregulated. Your immune system is downregulated. Your digestion is downregulated. You got massive gut issues, skin issues, and you're susceptible to all sorts of pathogens and disease. That's a crazy thing. So like physiologically, this isn't like just emotionally. This isn't just like physiologically. You're putting yourself in a horrific state that's going to lead to sickness, disease, decrepitude. Emotionally, it's exhausting, and it takes up your willpower to have to combat those psychological forces that are weighing you down. You're going to be in a bad mood, you're going to be exhausted, and you have less energy, you have less willpower to put towards the other stuff. And it's why people in those states end up being couch potatoes or video game addicts or addicts of other sorts. It's terrible. And then on top of that, you're just sad. You're angry. You're not in an optimal state. So if we want to be in flow, which is where our best self comes about, you can't be there when you're there because you're so attached to past and future, your regrets, you're anxious. We need to be able to put ourselves into good environments. Yep. Really, environment will beat willpower. James Clear has this awesome quote: "Don't always expect to have the power to say no. Design a life where you don't have to."
Yep.
Right. So this is why we at our house, we just don't have junk food in our house. It's because I forget about my kids. Like I can't say no.
Yep.
I don't want to have to fight that fight. Like if there's something like trail mix in the house, like forget about it. Like my brain, my self-talk goes, you should just finish that. Just finish it so you don't have to fight this thing anymore.
Yep.
Like otherwise, like the fridge or the freezer or the cupboard or the pantry is just going like, Ben.
Yep. It's like this constant magnetic pull on your mind.
Totally.
Even when you're not thinking about it, when you're not consciously thinking about it, it's always there in the back of your head.
So then it goes like, just finish it. Just finish it so you don't have to do that anymore. Don't do that battle. Well, what the easier way to do it is like, just don't have it there at all.
Yeah.
Imagine being somebody that's trying to quit smoking cigarettes, and you just lay like cigarettes and lighters out around the whole house.
Yep.
Like, what are you doing? That's such a terrible way to try to. Well, that's what we try to do. We're trying to get ourselves off of the processed food, yet we have it everywhere, all around us. we want our kids to eat healthier, yet it's in our pantries, fridge, freezers. It's everywhere. It's so much easier when your kids say, like, can I have a snack? You go, yeah, anything you want. Go grab anything you want. Like, and it's just there. Like, you're not always going to have the willpower to say no. So set up your environment so you don't need to.
Yeah.
It's such an easier way to do it.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to also point out, it's not just the actual like, darn it, I ate the cookies again, or I smoked the cigarette, but it's also like identity becomes a really big part of this. And if we want to be healthy people, and yet our actions are running counter to that, then our identity will never be such that like, I'm a healthy person, or I eat healthy food, or I, fill in the blank, however you might put that. Because every day, or almost every day, or certainly maybe a couple times a day, you prove to yourself that you're not that person, because your environment isn't set up in such a way that you weren't constantly being pulled in all these directions that we don't want to be pulled. And so if you eat the cookie, you can't then say, I'm a healthy person and I eat healthy food, because you just ate the cookie. So now you failed. And now you have to dig yourself out of that hole and get back to zero, where it's like, okay, I'm a healthy person and I have to prove it to myself. And so every time you have to prove it to yourself and then you fail at that, it becomes a little bit harder to tell yourself that story. And I think you and I know really well that like, if you can't tell yourself that story honestly, then you're really like, it's not going to happen, because it's the identity comes first. The identity leads to the actions lead to the belief enforces the identity. And so we've got to recognize that our environment is also, we also want to set up our environment in such a way that we can enforce the identity that we want and counter the identity that we're fighting against.
We have such a bias for confirmation as humans. We so badly want to act in ways that confirm the belief system that we have about ourselves. That's why that's so powerful, what you just laid out, is that identity really does matter. If you think of yourself as a funny person, you're going to look for social confirmation that you're a funny person, which then actually makes you a funny person. It's the same thing that happens with health. And I think this works a little bit counter to what maybe most people think, which is, well, if I don't have it in the house, when I go out, I'll go off the rails.
Yeah.
And in more cases than not, it's actually the opposite that's true, because you haven't done it in the house. Now you've set yourself up into a success cycle. You don't want to break the success cycle. So when you go out to eat, you're kind of like, you know what? I'm going to skip dessert today, and I'm just going to have the side salad instead of the plate of nachos. Because that's you've done it. You're doing the thing. This is who you are now, and it's this confirmation as opposed to the opposite. Even if there is the day where you get the plate of nachos and you get dessert, it's not as bad, because you're going back to your clean environments, right? You're going back to the 80-20, which you laid out before, where you're going to have 80% of your day is going to be set up in a more positive way. If 20% is not dialed, it's not going to affect as much.
Yep. Last thing on this one maybe harkens back a little bit to the first one, which is health consumerism, but it's the digital environment that we set up for ourselves. And specifically what I mean by that is the algorithm that we have created for ourselves. And I think this is really important. It's kind of funny because I'm actually in the middle of, I'm trying, mostly successfully, but I'm trying to go the entire month of May without watching or viewing any algorithmically decided content, which is surprisingly hard. So most people will know what this is by now, but an algorithmic, feed is when you go on Instagram and you click on the whatever the thing is, where it's like the For You basically page. And it's just like Instagram's like, here's a bunch of stuff based on things you've liked and watched before. Let's watch some more of it. And TikTok is 100% this. This is what TikTok figured out how to do really, really well. But it's on YouTube, it's on Netflix even. Like the things that Netflix gives you are the things that are similar to what you've watched before. So all to say, I'm trying really hard to disengage from the algorithm in terms of what I choose to give my time and my attention to. So I'm thinking about this already, but I'm thinking about this specifically here because what we watch and engage with, the algorithm is going to give us more of that. And if we are engaging with some of this sort of silliness that we can find on social media as it relates to health, right? Whatever it might be, right? Don't eat strawberries, or you need the blue blocker glasses, whether it's they're trying to sell you something or it's an influencer trying to convince you of something. If you engage with those things, you'll get more of those things. And if you spend a lot of time watching these pieces of content and from these individuals, you will start to believe that this is real. Because that's how our brains work. If we see something a lot, the frequency bias, we begin to believe that it is true and that it is true for everybody. And so I just bring that up to say, like, I think it's really important to recognize how much agency we should have, or we should try to have, over everything that gets our attention, especially the things that get our attention when we're sort of half asleep while watching it, when we're just sort of mindlessly scrolling, because it's learning what we're going to continue to engage with. And the algorithm's goal, the algorithm's job, is to get us to continue doing that for as long as possible so that we can watch more Nissan ads. And so just being really clear on what is our digital environment, knowing that that's going to paint a picture of what the world is and what is important and what we keep seeing more of, I think is really important. I don't know that we're ever taught this. And I think it's something we've got to stumble our way towards, the recognition of how powerful these algorithms are and how much agency we need to, how much effort we need to put in to retain our agency as it relates to that.
What would you say if your algorithm is skewed towards seemingly productive information? So it is about being healthy. It is about being fit. It is about being a better dad. It is about being more centered. Mm-hmm. What's your take on that?
I think I would be. Well, I think that's great. I think that most people probably aren't that. If I had to take a wild guess, like if we could really peek into people's algorithms, I think that we would see that mostly again, unless we're doing it with some intention, and you and I aren't normal in this case. And so I don't think if you looked at yours or mine, we would see these things. But I think if you're not intentional with it and you don't have a decent sense of where these distractions are as it relates to health and happiness, and if we're just led to believe what everybody else wants us to believe, I think that most people's algorithm is feeding them generally nonsense, where it's rare to get really good stuff, because really good stuff is not engagement worthy. Telling you to sleep 9 hours is not going to get a lot of likes, and therefore is not going to get a lot of attention on these platforms. I always laugh with EC because, man, she's doing her damnedest to get people to eat more fruits and vegetables. But like, just continuing to tell people to eat more fruits and vegetables is not ever going to be viral. It's not ever going to bubble up into the various algorithmic feeds that we're all kind of subjected to, because it's not sexy, it's not new, it's not controversial, it doesn't make anybody angry. Everybody's like, yeah, of course we should eat more fruit. So like the things that we talk about across these 5 factors, the things we've been talking about today, they just don't.
So you're saying we're not going to go viral?
I don't think so. Occasionally,
right.
But not often. But they don't lend themselves to the digital environments in which we all live, unless, to your point, you do the work of intentionally engaging with these things so that the algorithm's like, oh, I guess you want more of this. It's out there. It's just you have to kind of go looking for it versus sitting passively on your couch, scrolling and hoping to get healthier. Right. I don't think that works.
I think that's a big one as well. So the average person spends 7+ hours a day looking at a screen. That's wild. Mm-hmm. And today, most health behaviors are influenced by what they see on those screens.
Yep.
So to your point a little bit, unless you're doing like the AI terminology now, the deep research, right? Mm-hmm. To figure out who the trustworthy sources are, and are these, kind of like pull it back, but are these first principles? Or these kind of attention grabbing? Yep. We're probably, again, being distracted. Even if you're, because I know this is kind of what I do. I only follow like 35 accounts. Yep. And half of them are my friends. Yep. Maybe 25 are friends, right? Maybe 30 of them are friends. Yep. I follow these, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 that I want to get good information from, that I trust. But it's not like those are the only ones I'm getting pumped full of distracting stuff all the time that I have to fight my way through.
Yep.
And I'll pop up 15 minutes later being like, what the heck? I don't even know why I'm on this thing anymore.
Right.
And, Cal Newport has said to us that, your attention is your most valuable thing. So we need to, if it's our most valuable thing, we need to learn to spend it wisely.
Yes.
And we just get so now, particularly more than ever, the distractions are everywhere. So if you were, a 40-something-year-old guy 200 years ago, besides what you read in the newspaper and hear at the local pub, there's zero distraction throughout your day.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing pulling you away from what you set out to do. If you want to be a good family man, or if you want to try to be a politician, or if you want to open up a restaurant or be an entrepreneur, there's very, very little pulling you away from that. Now, we just have this crazy amounts of abundance of information,
yep,
which causes our attention to get fractured and slivered into smaller and smaller little bits. And I think this attention or distraction conundrum, I kind of wrote about this in the first book, Chasing Excellence, but I talk about with my athletes about this. It's you only have so many matchsticks to burn every day. You have a book of matches. Let's say each of book matches has 30 matchsticks in it. You need to decide what you're going to spend your matchsticks on. You're going to burn them up, meaning your attention, your energy, your effort, your focus on certain things. If you're doing that on things that are outside of your control, you don't move forward. You're just staying right where you are. If you burn those matchsticks on things that you can influence and you can control, particularly if they are these first principles, like eating right, sleeping right, training right, getting your mind right, getting your relationships right, you'll move really far forward.
Mm-hmm.
So what we want to do is make sure that we are just spending our matchsticks as productively as we possibly can.
Let's pause to say thanks to a few sponsors, and we'll be right back to the conversation. We're sponsored this time around by Momentous, creators of the Momentous 3, the essential daily supplement routine for optimal health and performance. Visit livemomentous.com and use the code EXCELLENCE for 35% off your first subscription. Let me tell you why the Momentous 3, their protein, creatine, and omega-3 supplements have become absolute non-negotiables in my daily routine. Their grass-fed whey protein isolate is sourced from European dairy farmers with the highest standards, making it perfect for muscle recovery and growth. Their creatine uses CreaPure, the purest form of creatine monohydrate available, which is crucial for both physical and cognitive performance. And yes, this applies to, of course, both men and women. And their omega-3s deliver a potent 1,600 milligram combined EPA and DHA in a perfect 1-to-1 ratio, supporting everything from brain function to recovery. What I love most is their commitment to purity. No gums, no fillers, no artificial flavors or sweeteners ever. Visit livemomentous.com. Use the code EXCELLENCE for 35% off your first subscription to start your own daily routine with the Momentous 3. We're brought to you by the Defender, the modern adventurer's vehicle that seamlessly blends rugged capability with cutting-edge technology. Imagine having eyes everywhere, above, below, and all around your vehicle. That's exactly what you get with the Defender's revolutionary 3D surround cameras and clear sight ground view technology, letting you see underneath your vehicle to navigate any obstacle with confidence. The next generation Pivi Pro infotainment system transforms every single journey, whether you're exploring the city or venturing off the beaten path. With 3 distinct models, the nimble Defender 90, the versatile 110, and the spacious 130 with seating for up to 8 people, there's a Defender perfect for every explorer. Experience luxury appointments throughout, ensuring you adventure in absolute comfort. head to LandRoverUSA.com to explore the full Defender lineup and discover your next adventure companion. Okay, let's jump to our third. So we talked about the lure of quick fixes, the importance of social and environmental influences, and our third is obsession with outcomes and perfectionism. Many lose sight of the purpose of health by becoming overly attached to metrics like PRs, body weight, or appearance, or by letting passion for health escalate into obsession. This perfectionism can lead to burnout, social withdrawal, and a rigid mindset that sees anything less than ideal as failure. The distraction here is the belief that winning at health is the goal, rather than using health as a foundation for a fuller, more meaningful life. Obsession can crowd out balance, flexibility, and the joy of progress, turning health into another source of stress instead of support for well-being. That's one of my favorite things, is this concept of like not trying to win the gym.
Yeah. George St. Pierre, the famous, one of the best UFC fighters of all time, and is a fitness freak and fanatic. He and his trainer had this thing, which was like, we have the perfect routine, right? Mm-hmm. Which is we do our 30-minute mobility, we do our warm up, we do our skills and our striking, we do our explosive stuff, and then we do our conditioning, we do our cool down, we do our body work, we do our sauna, we do all this thing, right? It's this perfect thing. They also knew that they might never have that. If they get it, great. But the idea was not to get that. It was to get the minimal. Let's at least get to the gym and get some striking work in. Mm-hmm. Let's at least get to where we get our body work done. Let's at least get this thing. Too much of us these days, I see in the gym all the time, have this, well, if I can't do it all, I'm not going to do it at all.
Yeah.
We'd have these nutrition challenges and people don't sign up because they're like, well, I'm going to Vegas though. I'm going to Vegas for a bachelor party on that one weekend. It's a 40-day challenge and they're going to be away for 3 days of it. And they don't do it because they're not going to be perfect on those 3 days.
Yeah.
So they use it as this out of, I'm not going to do it at all. This is the same storytelling you gave in the beginning about the person not wanting to go to the gym in the morning after they see the workout.
Yep.
Well, I'm not going to do as well in the workout as somebody else because of this, or I'm not going to. What we need to do, I read this morning in the Daily Stoic, basically said it's a takeoff of Aristotle's, we are what we repeatedly do. Mm-hmm. Excellence then therefore is not an act, but a habit. It's just and Seneca takes that and basically says, like, we just have to build habits. And the way, if we want to be something, do something. It doesn't mean if you want to be it, you have to be it. I mean, it's like, if you want to be strong, you don't have to squat 300 pounds. You have to do the things that are going to get you to squat 300 pounds. What's that mean? Today, just do any form of squat. It's better than nothing. One of my favorite sayings, one of my favorite quotes that I ever came across was, I think I actually morphed this. So this isn't even the quote. I morphed it. A 1,000-meter run, like a 1K run, right? Which takes like 4 minutes. A 1K run has more in common with a 10K run than a 0K run. Mm-hmm. Like 1 is closer to 10 than 1 is to 0. Going from 0 to 1 is the biggest step. Everything after 1 is almost like bonus points. Mm-hmm. But you got to get to 1. If you think of it in terms of like 1s and 0s, not like 1s to 100s. Right? Everyone's like, well, if I can't be 100%, why would I do this? No. It's like, get the 1. Get one thing. Like, it's all about just these little things that stack. And James Clear, again, has this aggregation of marginal gains, right? Which was taken from one of David Blansfield, I think, which is the British cycling. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Which is this idea that if you just do a bunch of small things well over time, in a week, you don't notice any difference. There will be no difference. In a month, there's probably still no difference. In a year, you might be able to start to see some differences. But over the course of 10 years, it's unrecognizable. Mm-hmm. it's this idea of like, just do the nutrition challenge and get 50% of the points every day.
Right.
If you did that every day for 10 years, you're unrecognizable. But yet what people do instead is, though, I can't be perfect, so I'm going to stay at 0.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this weird cognitive bias that we have, that we don't want to lose things. We don't want to lose. We don't want to come up short in anything. Mm-hmm. And what we're really afraid of is failure. And we see not winning as failure.
Yep.
It's just this society that you take someone like Cole Sager, who's been to the CrossFit Games 11 consecutive years, which is just astronomical. He's been at the 0.000001% of the athletic population for over a decade. Yet if you were to say that career over somebody that went to the CrossFit Games once but won it, mm-hmm. which would you take? Mm-hmm. 90% of the people are going to be like, I'd rather win it.
Yep.
Because we don't give credit to consistency. We only give credit to the highlight reel, which is the thing that you can post and get accolades and awards for, which is the social recognition. There is no social recognition for long, slow consistency. So we discount it massively. Yep. That's a huge disservice to ourselves. We have to recognize that it is these slow drip, 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 drip that eventually fills up the bucket, not one big splash that spills out the side and you're left with only a little bit at the bottom.
Yep.
So it's this idea that we have to kind of like push away this need for this obsession for perfection, which stops us from starting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, think about perfection as the fear of being human. For some reason, we don't like to face, maybe this harkens back a bit to our mindset continuum of being the realist. Like, we just don't want to be the realist sometimes. We don't want to just face the fact that, like, yeah, it's really hard for me to go 40 days straight with eating in this particular way. And here's an excuse: I'm going to Vegas for 3 days, right? So I can't do it. But just the recognition that being human is being imperfect is so wildly important as it relates to this pursuit of health. Because like, again, back to the digital environment we live in, we live in, as something you've said before, like we live in an environment, we see everybody's highlight reels, right? And so when you do that long enough and you do that consistently enough, you start to believe that everybody else is perfect except for me. You start to believe that everybody else has got it figured out and I'm just stumbling around here and I've got no idea what I'm doing. When the truth is, like, when you really get into it, nobody knows anything, nobody knows what they're doing, and everybody's stumbling along to a degree, right? And so, but if you never say, yeah, the stumbling is actually what makes me human and not what makes me a failed human, until you can get there, then the allure of perfectionism and the barrier of perfectionism will always stand very tall.
That said like a true creative. I think it's because I think athleticism, like you're a creative, you're an artist. And it's very similar in the world of athleticism and the creative arts. It's this like stage fright. Yep. It's this idea, like, if I put myself out there, I might not win. My athletic career, I've suffered from that hugely. What we're really coming down to is like the idea of this fixed versus growth mindset. Yep. That's the simplest way to kind of tee this whole thing up. The perfectionist has a fixed mindset, which if I can't win, I'm not going to compete. Yep. That for me was a big part of my identity when I was, coming up in the sport of CrossFit. I was petrified of losing, so I wouldn't put myself out there as often as I could have. It's only like, that's why I figured out I became a better coach than I was an athlete, because I understood that aspect of it. I understood how powerful that was and how detrimental that was to performance, to gains, to improvement, to fulfillment, to ending your career with looking back and going like, yeah. And Katrin was the opposite of that, right? Like, let's just go, like, I think Sam Briggs was probably the best I ever saw at it. Shout
out to Sam Briggs.
Yeah, because she just competed with so much joy for the sake of competing. She just wanted to let's just see what happens. I just want to see I just want to see what happens. Like, what a cool way to walk through a career, to walk through life. Like, yeah, let's do that. Let's see what happens. Like, this can be a conversation we have for the next one, but no expectation, no self-judgment, no what are they going to think. It's such a freer way to operate. And we don't need to be world-class athletes or stage performers to have this be as meaningful as it is in the much smaller ways, right? Which is, I'm not going to show up to the gym today because I can't be perfect. I'm not going to take on that new responsibility because I can't do it perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, I fall victim to that. Every once in a while when I see rope climbs programmed at the gym, I'm like, maybe I'm not going today, right? But what a terrible way to never learn something. Last thing I want to hit on is what I said right at the end of the little thing I read out, which is turning health into another source of stress. What a strange knot people can get tied into when they are pursuing health, but health becomes such an important part of their lives that it actually just causes them to lose sleep or to beat themselves up or fill in the blank. I'd love any tips you have on what do we do if we find ourselves putting health on such a pedestal that it's in fact doing the exact opposite of what we'd hoped it would do.
I think this is probably hits people at all parts of the bell-shaped curve, right? Whether you're really unhealthy, you're sedentary and you're 60 pounds overweight, like that burden of health can weigh so heavy. That's a big stress on top of the normal stress of not being healthy. To everyone in the middle that we talked before, people that are trying, but they're being distracted for whatever reason. They're not where I was, in my college years. And that's a stress as well, all the way to the group that you're talking about, which is like the people that stress about the PRs and stress about their place on the leaderboard and stress about not going out with it being an environment that they can't control at all because they're not going to have their, quinoa that's been washed in the tears of Zeus, I think it's everybody. It's just, it happens in different ways, but yeah, it's a stressful thing because it matters, right? It matters a lot. It matters a lot to people on all areas of that. I think everybody wants better health, every single person. So whenever you have an expectation versus a reality and there's a gap between the two, that is a opportunity for stress. I'm not going to say that's what causes, but it's an opportunity for stress because you start to storytell about the gap. And this is a little bit like, well, last time I tried it, past, or man, I wish I was in future. You're pulling yourself away from the present, which is the only thing that you can actually affect, is just go and actually do the thing. When you can go and actually do the thing, meaning go cook yourself a good meal, go hug your wife, go out in the backyard and play with your kids, get up in the morning and get some sunlight, get into the mountains, get into the ocean, go lift some heavy weights, do some pull-ups, eat some vegetables, grow a garden. Like those are the things that actually move you towards the thing, as opposed to what most of us do, which is sit in the storytelling cycle. And we ruminate. And we just ruminate and we ruminate and we ruminate and we end up formulating fabricated stories which are not true, which is this is the way I'm always going to be because of my past. I never will because you put all these blockers in front of you. Instead of the way we started the conversation, don't get distracted by the rumination. Don't let the storytelling take advantage of you and just go and do the thing and be like Sam Briggs and just enjoy the process of it.
Thank you very much for tuning into the show. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening or watching so you do not miss another episode. For more frameworks and daily practices, visit chasingexcellence.email. And don't forget to tap the link in the show notes for today's full listener guide, where we break down the key ideas and provide actionable steps to help you put them into practice. Until next time, keep building health, finding freedom, and living with your heart on fire.